Right? First is you have to stop. First is you have to stop the antibiotic.
Yes.
At least for 1 week. Then only you will be able to identify the bug. Okay. Then you do a plastic surgery consultation, show them the case, and then you do a thorough debridement, implant removal, then local antibiotic beads, and if there is any gross instability, you have to provide stability by means of an X-fix if it is necessary. And then further, you have to give IV antibiotics depending upon the organism. And once the whole thing is healing, then you can go for a cover, soft tissue cover.
Soft.
Only thing is you have to tell the patient that it is unlikely that the patient will get full range of movement of the elbow. Shall we go into the next case?
Yes, sir.
First one is osteomyelitis.
Yes, sir.
Second is a joint infection or a stiff elbow, probably due to infection of the joint. And third is post-immobilization stiffness of the shoulder and pronation deformity of the forearm. These four things should be there. But in his diagnosis, he has said only one thing, that is the osteomyelitis.
That
he never
means he has
mentioned stiff elbow.
That means he was saying as if he is knowing X-ray and everything of the patient.
Yeah.
So friends, always remember history, your own present clinical findings, and correlation of what patient tells and what is the telltale sign with your clinical examination. You should always go by that and then look, feel, move, measure. Special tests, examination of relevant contralateral joint, proximal distal joint, and without failing spine. And then come to the clinical diagnosis. And thereafter, whenever you are asked what you will do or how will you manage, I would like to confirm my diagnosis first. And then when asked, ask for the investigations, and actual treatment part should be the last one. So shall we go with second case, sir?
Yeah, sure.
Gaurav, please start.
Yes, sir. Sir, am I audible?
You are audible and clearly visible. Please.
Okay, my screen is visible, no? Yes, sir. Okay.
That's what I told. Please start.
Yes, sir. My patient is a 2-year-old female child, hails from Indore. Comes with chief complaint parents concern of bilateral knee deformity, 6 months. History of presenting illness. Patient was apparently normal
Next
6
slide.
months back. Sorry, sir. Okay. Patient was history of presenting illness. Patient was normally apparently 6 months back when the patient parents noticed deformity in both knee after the child has started walking, which is gradually progressing and has progressed to present state, not associated with any pain. No history suggestive of trauma, infection, tumor, renal disease, or any kind of gastrointestinal disease. Coming to birth history, child was a full-term female baby born by a vaginal delivery with normal presentation, with birth weight of 3 kg. No history of delay in cry or ICU admission after birth. Developmental history, there was history of delay in dentition. Rest all other milestones were achieved as per age. Personal history, family diet is a vegetarian. Coming to family history, there is no history of similar illness or no history of short stature in the family. General physical examination, my patient is moderately built and nourished. On head-to-toe examination, positive findings are delayed dentition of the teeth, pigeon chest, rachitic rosary, widening of bilateral wrist and ankle. No features, no other features suggestive of.
Gaurav, are you presenting short case or long case?
Sir, I don't know, sir. I mean,
Gopakumar, sir.
Sir, it was a kind of short case only.
Gopakumar, sir.
Hello.
then present like short case only.
Okay, sir. General physical examination, positive history is
Did you tell the
delayed
diagnosis?
dentition.
No, sir.
No, sir.
He
Sir, I
started
was,
like a long case.
presenting the
That's why I
whole-
interrupted him.
Yep. And again,
How?
are there any pictures of the deformity?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. I have all the pictures of inspection, palpation, and
First
certified.
tell the diagnosis and then tell the short history. History you have already said. And
Yes,
general
sir.
examination and local examination findings.
Sir, my provisional diagnosis is a patient is a 2-year-old female child with 7 degree of genu varum deformity of both knees, being mainly in tibia with intermalleolar distance of 3 centimeter, most probably secondary to nutritional rickets, sir.
Okay. So you are saying 7 degree of genu varum, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
At the age of
Sir,
2 years, what do you expect in a child?
As the age of 2 years, it should be around um, um, 10 to 12 degree.
Of
10 to 12 degrees, sir.
Of varus valgus.
Varus.
So you expect 10 to 12 degrees and there is 7 degree now. And now you are saying there is a genu varum deformity, is it? How is it right?
Yes, sir. Sir, actually, measurement of.
No.
This,
What do you expect? What deformity do you expect in a child?
at 2 years of
Year-old
age, sir.
child.
Yes, sir.
What
Yes, sir.
deformity do you expect?
Uh,
In other words, tell us how the progression of the deformities. What happens in a newborn child? What happens at 1 year? What happens at 1.5 years?
sir,
2 years, 3 years?
Patient child is born with genu varum. The maximum varus is reached by 1 year. Then after 2 to 4 years, it gradually progresses from valgus, and at the 4 year it reaches maximum valgus. And then after 4 to 8 years, it comes to the normal valgus of 7 degrees, sir.
Okay. So now you are saying that he is in the age group when the child is having genu varus.
Yes, sir.
So
At 2 years, will it be varus or it would be rectus? It would
will
be
it be
a straight.
2 years it would be, sir, almost genu rectus. It will start in going towards valgus thing, sir. Hello.
Yes, Gaurav, proceed.
Yes, you are audible. You can proceed. No problem. You just proceed, please.
Okay, sir. So general physical examination, sir. Rhaetic delayed dentition was there. Rhaetic rosary, pigeon chest was there, and bilateral widening of wrist and ankle can be noticed, sir. Then coming to local examination, sir. Patients, should I go with all or only positive history?
Only positive findings and show us the photograph. You don't
Okay, sir.
read from this.
Yes, sir. Positive finding on inspection is, sir, patient both the legs bowing can be noticed on inspection. Range of motion, active and passive range of motion within the normal limits.
no, you have to see that it's not right. See, when you get a deformity like this, you have to examine for the, not only for the deformity. One general examination is very important, head to foot examination. And especially when you say that there is a diagnosis of rickets, you have to
Sir,
look for so many things.
Sir, general
You just
physical
tell the general examination findings.
Yes, sir, I have mentioned, sir. I will mention again.
Yeah.
General physical examination, sir. Delayed dentition of teeth was there. Rhaetic rosary was noted. Pigeon chest and bilateral widening of wrist and ankle was noted, sir.
Okay.
There was no history suggestive of ligament laxity or short stature, sir.
Okay.
Then on inspection, sir, patient's bilateral both legs bowing can be noticed, both legs. Movement range of movements were active and passive range of movements were within normal limits, sir. Then sir, measurements I have done, sir. So for measurements, I have sir, I was tibiofemoral angle. Actually, I couldn't measure on the patient clinically, since patient I was not able to reach the patient, so I couldn't measure tibiofemoral angle.
You have not measured the
So-
angle?
Yes, sir. That's why that angle was just sorry for that thing, sir. It was arbitrarily written because I couldn't measure.
No, you said-
this.
See, you are now saying that you have not measured the angle, but in your diagnosis you was given 170°. What is that?
Sir, actually, that was I was sorry. It was arbitrarily written, sir, because
Okay,
I couldn't measure. Even clinically and radiologically, I couldn't measure, sir. Actually,
Okay.
I tried with other apps, but I couldn't get, sir. So that's why it was written like that only. So, sir, for measurements, I have measured tibiofemoral angle. We have measured intercondylar distance. I have measured, sir. By making the patient stand with knee and hip and knee in extension, both malleoli joined together, and in intercondyle distance of both medial femoral condyles is measured, sir. Then, sir, coming to sir test, sir. Yes, sir. Then coming to test, sir, I have done a knee flexion test, sir, in with patient in supine position and with knee and hip inflection, with knee flexion touching heel touching the ischial tuberosity, and on examining, it was noticed that deformity still persisted even after the flexing of the knee. And thereafter, I have done cover-up test, sir. Cover-up test also showed that there is proximal tibia and distal thigh alignment showed a varus deformity, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Any finding in the angle?
Yes, sir.
The angle, did you get any finding that is commonly seen in nutrition rickets?
Sir, angle, I couldn't measure angle, sir. Tibiofemoral
Not
angle.
back measurement. Did you get the double malleoli sign?
Yes, sir. Widening of bilateral, both side ankle widening was there, sir. Double malleoli sign. Couldn't appreciate, sir, actually.
Is there any muscle weakness? Is
No,
the
sir. There
child
was
able
no.
to get up from a sitting position easily?
No, sir. There was no muscle weakness, sir. There was no kind of any muscle weakness or wasting any kind of, sir, observed.
Do you expect any muscle weakness in nutritional rickets?
No, sir. Nutritional ricket muscle weakness.
It is always will be there. Some muscle weakness will be there in nutritional rickets. In all types except familial hypophosphatemic rickets, you get muscle weakness. Okay.
Okay.
So you
Okay,
have to test for that also.
Okay. Sir. Yes. Sir.
Okay. Anything else you want to tell
Yes, sir. That's all.
regarding the deformity?
Regarding deformity, sir. That's all, sir. I mean, covers test measurements and all this much.
So if I am saying that this is an early Blount's disease,
Yes, sir.
so what are the points against it being Blount's?
The Blount's disease, since my patient first with the history, since my patient is of Indian origin, and Blount's disease patient origin
It's common in India. That's
Yes, sir.
not a. It is very common in India, especially in South India. So that's not a point.
Second, sir, Blount's is sir often unilateral, and physiological or idiopathic genu
No.
varum is bilateral, sir. Then, sir, metadiaphyseal angle we have to see, sir.
No, clinically. You have mentioned
Clinically-
only one deformity, isn't it? You have not mentioned anything regarding the internal tibial torsion, thigh foot angle. None of these you have measured. You have said anything regarding this.
Uh,
Is the
Yes,
child
sir.
having internal tibial torsion?
Sir, I have to, yeah, couldn't measure, sir, torsion, thigh foot angle, and
Yeah. Even on inspection, there appears to be internal tibial torsion, isn't it?
yeah, sir, yes, sir, kind of.
So if you get that question in your, if the examiner asks that question, first thing
Yes.
you have to think in terms of the deformities that occur in Blount's disease. What are the deformities you get in Blount's disease?
Okay, sir.
What are the? You just tell 1, 2, 3 like that. You tell.
Blount's disease, sir. Genu varum deformity will be there.
No. Genu varum will be there. More specifically, what?
Patients
Sagittal
clinically, sir.
Clinically, you use instead
It
of
will
genu
be
some other term.
tibia something or femur something.
Tibia only, sir.
So what
Okay.
it is called?
Tibia vera.
Tibia vera.
So why so much of time you are taking?
Second, what do you get?
Tibia vera. Then, sir, radiologically, sir, metaphyseal weakness.
No, clinically. We are in the
Clinical.
clinics examining the patient, isn't it?
Okay. Tibia vera, sir.
So actually, second thing is internal tibial torsion. Okay.
Okay, sir.
At least these two you should say. The other two are usually the procurvatum in the upper tibia, and 4 is a lower femoral varus can also be seen. Okay. That
Sir, what is third one? Can you
not absolutely necessary. At least you have to say that there is a tibia vera and internal tibial torsion.
Yes. Yes.
So that is one differential diagnosis.
Okay, sir.
Okay. If I ask you, I think it is metaphyseal dysplasia. This again is another common cause for genu vara.
Metaphyseal dysplasia, sir.
Yeah, especially the Spitz type of metaphyseal dysplasia. That name you don't remember. Metaphyseal dysplasia can also present with genu vara. How will you rule out that?
Sir, for metaphyseal dysplasia, sir, as actually clinically, I don't know, but for dysplasias, if it is there, then
Here comes the importance of anthropometry.
anthropometry.
They are short
Yes.
stature. And since it is affecting the metaphysis, the limbs are more shorter than the trunk. So a short limb, short stature. Okay.
Yes, sir.
The other features are almost the same. There may be coxa vara, lower femoral varus, upper tibial varus. All these findings will be there.
Voltage.
Along with thickening of the metaphysis.
Okay.
So 4 conditions that commonly present with as genu varum at 2 years are: 1, physiological genu varum. Second is rickets. Rickets, any type of rickets can present. Third is Blount's, and the fourth is
Blount's
display.
is metaphyseal dysplasia.
Metaphyseal
Yes.
dysplasia.
Yes.
Now you proceed.
Sir, I'll get the X-ray done.
Okay.
Only X-ray?
Sir, I'll get the blood investigations also done.
What X-ray do you want to get?
Sir, ideally, I'll get the X-ray of both lower limbs standing, AP, and X-ray of bilateral wrist, AP lateral, X-ray of knee joint, AP lateral, Then X-ray of pelvis, both hip. Then sir, yeah sir, I'll get all these X-ray done.
Don't get so
But-
much X-rays in a child, isn't it? Radiation is harmful.
Yes sir.
So first, if you get the findings of rickets, you can you need to take only 2 X-rays: X-rays of the knee joint and X-ray of the wrist.
Wrist.
One wrist and knee joint. Because at 2 years, long leg film is not absolutely essential. So you can reduce the amount of radiation the child is going to get. And if this X-ray shows evidence of bone dysplasia, then you have to do the dysplasia series X-rays. Okay.
Skeletal survey. Yes. Yes.
So blood investigation.
blood in-
What blood investigation do you want to do?
Blood investigation, sir. I'll get serum calcium, serum phosphate, sir. Urinary calcium, urinary phosphate, vitamin D, serum vitamin D, and alkaline phosphatase, sir. And complete hemogram.
Okay. Do you want to look for renal function test? Blood urea creatinine.
Yes, sir. A renal
Why?
function test also to rule
Why?
out renal rickets. sir.
Renal
If it
rickets.
is-
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, show the X-ray.
And this is a plain radiograph, well exposed X-ray of a immature skeleton, showing bilateral knee joint and ankle joint with distal femur and full bilateral full tibia and fibula, with some part of foot bone. On distal femur, there is epiphyseal widening is there, epiphyseal widening and broadening is there. On metaphysis, we can see there is fraying is there and cupping is there. Fraying and splaying is there on both sides. On tibia also epiphysis widening and cupping and splaying can be seen. Then cortex is medial cortex of the tibia is thickened. And
So what do you think it is?
looks like sir feature of rickets, sir.
Okay. Is it an active rickets or healing rickets?
Sir, active rickets.
Active.
Because there is no zone of healing ossification
What
around
is the
epiphysis.
evidence? What is the evidence of healing? In
Healing,
rickets,
sir,
etiology evidence of healing.
So zone of ossifications, ossifications will be there around the epiphyseal, metaphyseal, epiphyseal margin. White line of
Seeing that,
frencle
is it-
can be seen.
You are seeing the cup getting filled with milk, isn't it? So you can see the white line there. See, in the metaphysis, you can see a thick white line, isn't it?
So white line. That's
Yeah.
irregularity is also actually, sir. Irregularity is also there.
The
That
irregularity is there. It is not active. It is a healing stage. You said about the medial thickening of the medial cortex. What's the cause of that?
Thickening, sir. Can I?
You
Can I
said
get one
some
question?
finding regarding thickening of the medial tibial cortex. You said that.
Yes, sir.
Now, what's the cause of that?
Yes, sir.
What's the cause? Do you know that or?
No, sir. I don't.
It is due to internal tibial torsion. That's the finding that is seen in internal tibial torsion, thickening of the medial cortex. Okay.
Okay. Yes, sir.
So it appears to be rickets. Okay.
Rickets, sir.
What are
So
the
blood investigations.
Yeah, sorry, it's asking blood investigations.
I think it's.
You first
I
tell.
don't know it's visible.
You
Or
first tell the findings you expect in the blood investigation. What should be the serum calcium like? Nutritional.
Sir, nutritional record, serum calcium will be sir, will be low, sir. For that, PTH will activate. PTH will be
No, no.
increased.
So serum calcium, you just tell serum calcium can be
Low, normal to low, sir.
normal, low, or sometimes high. What happens to serum phosphorus?
Serum phosphorus will be decreased, sir. Low.
No, it will not be decreased. If it is decreased, that means you are entering into another area, hypophosphatemia rickets. So serum phosphorus should be normal.
Normal. Sorry, sir. Yes, sir. Serum phosphorus is normal. Urinary phosphorus is.
No, the third, alkaline phosphatase.
It will be increased, sir.
It will be increased.
Increased, yes.
What happens to PTH nutritional rickets?
PTH will be increased, sir.
What will happen to vitamin D, 25-OH vitamin D?
25-OH vitamin D, sir, it will be decreased, sir.
It will be decreased. What will happen
Yes.
to renal function test, blood urea creatinine?
If it is a nutritional rickets, renal function will
Yeah,
be
we are
normal.
talking only about nutritional rickets.
It will be normal, sir.
It will be normal. So these are the blood parameters and their usual finding in nutritional rickets. Okay.
Yes, yes.
In the urine, what are the things you want to look for?
Urine, sir, urinary calcium and phosphate, sir.
How will you measure urinary calcium and phosphorus?
Measurements, I don't remember, sir.
Is it 24 hours or
So it is 24-hour urinary calcium and phosphorus, which is not very easy in a child of 2 years of age. Do you want to look for pH of urine?
pH?
pH, sir.
Is it important?
Yes, sir. It is important when it is, but not in again. Not
In
in this
rickets,
case.
do you want to look for pH of urine?
Acidotic.
For sir, renal ricket acidotic.
What do you call that
purpose
type
we
of
can see.
rickets?
That is, sir.
Have you heard of RTA?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Renal tubular acidosis. Yes, sir. In that.
Renal tubular acidosis. So
Renal
what
tubular
happens
acidosis.
to urine pH in renal tubular acidosis?
Renal tubular acidosis, urine pH, sir.
What is normal urine pH?
7 point.
Will it be acidic or alkaline?
Be alkaline, sir. 7.3 to 7.4. 7.2.
No. Urine will be acidic, isn't it? Normal urine is acidic. In renal tubular acidosis, it will be alkaline because the secretion of hydrogen ion by the distal tubule is not happening. So the urine will be alkaline. Okay. So these are the usual things that can be asked. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Common things.
Yes.
So these are nutritional rickets. Sir, Jain sir, who are the other examiners? I think Shivananda sir is there.
Yes, sir. Sivananda sir is there, sir.
Yeah.
Gopal is also there. Last time you took a very good viva on rickets.
Yeah. So
I'll take your leave, sir. I have to go for Assami meeting now, sir.
okay. Okay.
Sir, we have finished the discussion, sir. Gopakumar, sir.
No, you have to ask some more questions, sir, regarding the management and
Sivananda, sir.
Yeah.
Management related questions, sir.
If it is a new, huh?
like class la mala.
Hello.
Yes, sir. You are examiner, final examination. You are the examiner and you are leading with management part questions of rickets. Sivananda, sir.
So your diagnosis is nutritional rickets. Am I right or not?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes.
But then how do you treat?
Since the age of child is 2 years only, so since patient is in a healing phase, we'll continue the treatment of vitamin D, and I'll explain the patient's family regarding the treatment and observation for another 1 year till 3 years of age.
So what is your treatment? You explain to your patient.
So at present, vitamin D supplement.
So any
And
regime for that? Any regimen for that?
the STOS therapy is there.
Yes, explain.
STOS therapy, sir.
You know,
Actually, sir,
you are remembering it?
no, sir. Actually, I don't remember. But sir,
Any postgraduate student can unmute and answer. Any postgraduate student. Avinash.
Yes, sir.
Management, STOS therapy.
Uh, uh,
Sir, shall I say?
Yes, Suman, go ahead.
Sir, 6 lakh IU in 10 days, sir. 60,000 IU per day per 10 days, sir. 6 lakh IU has been given in STOS therapy.
So how will you give 6 lakh? 60,000? Yes, yes. Explain it again.
Sir, 60,000 IU per day for 10 days, 10 consecutive days, sir.
Okay. Or any other way?
Can you give oral? Suman, that's what Gopal sir is asking.
Yes, sir, we can give oral, sir.
Okay. Gaurav, you are presenting the case.
yes, sir.
So 2 years old child. What was the developmental milestones in this child? You are saying it's nutritional, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
So was there any positive finding in developmental milestones?
Sir, positive finding in my developmental history was delayed dentition of teeth was there, sir. Other than that, as per patient, parents, everything was achieved as per age, sir. Milestone as achieved, sir.
So in your objective findings,
Yes,
was
sir.
there any craniotabes?
Sir, I have given my I have given my general physical and positive finding. Patient have pigeon chest, rachitic rosary is there, bilateral widening of wrist and ankle is there, sir, and there was no craniotabes or frontal bossing or bone was head any abnormality was observed, sir.
Commonly, whenever such presentation is there, usually you will
Yes, sir.
find some delayed milestone, especially sitting with support, sitting without support, standing with support, and walking with support and walking without support. Usually there should be some delayed milestone. You have asked or you missed it?
No, sir. I have asked. They have their other child also. They I have asked compared also ki when she started working, when she has second started working, they have given absolutely normal milestone details, sir. Only thing was she told me is delayed dentition, sir.
Okay. Is there any maintenance vitamin D medication you would like to give after 10 days? You said 60,000 units daily for 10 days, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
And thereafter,
And sir,
you are
one more
observing
question I
child
want to
till
ask.
3 years.
Yes, sir. 3 years.
So what you are going to observe?
Sir, for progression of the deformity, sir, whether it is after 3 years, if it is correcting with healing of the disease, whether it is going towards valgus or rectus to valgus, whether it is going or not.
Okay. Shivananda sir.
Maintenance dose we have to maintain for
Yes, sir.
completing this. Yes. How much dose you want to give?
Maintenance to sir. I actually I don't remember.
Any student, Suman?
Sir, 400 IU per day after 3 months of the STOS therapy to be given.
Till?
Till sir, the complete healing of rickets evidence in radiologically.
What is the main problem with STOS therapy? If you are giving like that vitamin D and calcium, you are supplementing, and what do you find? One investigation you have to follow. So these patients are prone to develop hypercalcemia.
Yes,
Once
sir.
you're pumping vitamin D3 and calcium, you should estimate the calcium levels as well sometimes.
Yes,
When you're
Yes, sir.
doing STOS therapy, this is very important.
yes.
Okay, anything to add?
Gopakumar sir.
Regarding the vitamin D, he said STOS therapy, which is a dose of around 3 lakh to 6 lakh units in divided doses. That's or you can give it as weekly doses. That is much safer. 60,000 units weekly for 6 weeks. And along with supplementation of calcium.
Calcium.
Then as the local treatment, some people use breeze, which can also be mentioned.
Yes, sir.
So,
Sir, Gopakumar sir, how frequently we have to test for the hypercalcemia? These patients are when these patients
no, the
are
problem is not hypercalcemia, it is hypervitaminosis D, which we are seeing nowadays. Because what is happening is everybody will start giving this 25OH vitamin D, and the prescription will not be shown to the next doctor. The
Yes,
mother
sir.
will be shopping around, and everybody will give 60,000 each, and the 3 or 4 doctors will be giving the same drug.
Yes.
So we are now seeing many cases coming with the drowsiness and problems, which ultimately come as hypervitaminosis. So
Yes.
that's a problem.
Yes.
Sir, summing up and your final verdict, sir. Gopakumar
Yeah,
sir.
both cases were good, and the students presented it reasonably well, but there's a scope of improvement, because when they present more and more cases, they will become much more confident, and they'll be able to answer more questions. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Shivananda sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
Please
you, sir.
continue. Okay. Shivananda sir.
And examination of surrounding joints is also very important when we are dealing with the deformities. This is one thing you should concentrate on that, because every deformity is depending on joint above and joint below. So even it is a short case, you must go through that. That is another important thing I want to mention.
Yes, sir.
In these cases.
Yes, sir.
Right, sir. Gopakumar sir, if you will permit, I will take another 10-15 minutes, and we will finish this radiological part of metabolic bone diseases.
Yeah, that's good. Okay.
Will that be okay, sir?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Respected teachers and friends, metabolic bone diseases, basically hyperparathyroidism, rickets or osteomalacia, healing rickets, and scurvy. These are the 3 things. But most importantly, ricket, as far as our exam is concerned, is much more important. And maybe if Viva goes from metabolic bone disease from rickets to, because of your some of the answers, then there you must know about something about hyperparathyroidism and also from scurvy. So what is there in hyperparathyroidism? I will briefly cover very basic things other than radiological part. So whenever there is decreased vitamin D, absorption of calcium will be reduced, and that will a basic initial picture will be reduced calcium, increased phosphorus, and decreased calcitriol will stimulate parathyroid hormone, and consequences will be just reverse: increased calcium, decreased phosphorus, and signs and symptoms of hyperparathyroidism. So whenever there is increased parathyroid hormone, it will act on bone in the form of increased calcium and phosphorus release from the bone, and that will cause the osteoclastic activity. Means increased parathyroid hormone will stimulate the bones, osteoclastic activity, result will be increased calcium and decreased phosphorus, this phosphate. Because in kidneys, proximal tubules will reabsorb the calcium but will excrete the phosphorus, this phosphate. So phosphate will be reduced from the blood and calcium will be increased. From intestine, vitamin D metabolism, if means increased vitamin D metabolism, increased calcium absorption from the intestine. So end result will be osteoclastic and osteocytic activities leading to resorption plus fibrous tissue replacement, which we call it as a osteoitis fibrosa cystica or von Recklinghausen's disease of bone, which will ultimately cause decreased bone density, brown tumors, subperiosteal bone resorption, defective lamellar or Haversian canal system. So how patient will present? Yes, serologically hypercalcemia, hypophosphatemia, and clinically polyuria, polydipsia, bony pains, psychic moans and stones, that is pains, stones and moans, which we have learned. That means bony pains, nephrocalcinosis, ureteric colic and renal colic. But radiologically, there will be bone resorption, osteoclastic tumor formation, osteosclerosis, sometimes chondrocalcinosis, and pathophysiology explains the radiological finding. That's why I included this in the beginning. So first finding, which we will see, is 4 important findings in hyperparathyroidism. So you can see here, hallmark is cortical bones are affected more than cancellous bones. So subperiosteal bone resorption is pathognomonic, and specifically middle phalanx of index and middle finger, radial side, that too radial side, subperiosteal resorption. You should think of these hypoparathyroid, other, you should look after the other. Then loss of fine cortical outline around tufts. Dilip, please don't disturb us. Loss of fine cortical outline around tufts, mesh-like or Wuhan bone appearance, also seen at medial aspect of proximal tibia, femur and humerus, superior and inferior rib margins, and lamina dura surrounding the teeth. But most importantly, this index and middle finger, middle phalanges, and radial part will see the subperiosteal resorption. Now see it carefully. Inner and outer table of normal skull bone. But what happens is in the hyperparathyroidism, trabecular bone resorption, osteoclasts. Sir, who is this? Dilip, kindly unmute yourself. Trabecular bone resorption osteoclasts will dissect through the center of trabeculae, resulting in stippled, mottled, and granular appearance, which loses clear distinction between inner and outer table of skull. On my right, on your right side, skull radiological picture, clear-cut distinction of the tables. On left side, it is the loss of clear distinction. So This is called as salt and pepper appearance of the skull. So first is radial side of middle phalanges of index and middle finger bones, subperiosteal resorption, and then salt and pepper appearance on the skull. Then parathyroid hormone, brown tumor or osteoclastoma formation. Again, increased osteoclastic activity. There will be extensive bone resorption. Primary hyperparathyroidism is which will be it will be seen much more. Locally, bone is replaced by vascularized fibrous tissue. Means bone is replaced by fibrous tissue. That is osteitis fibrosa cystica. Contains giant cells, necrode cells, and hemorrhagic liquefaction. In this, when histopathologically we examine. So cortex is eccentrically cortical, expansile, lytic, well-marginated lesion with end osteal scalloping and no periosteal reaction. Complication will occur if more than 2/3 of cortex is affected, and it may cause the pathological fracture. Of course, you should always rule out the metastasis as a differential diagnosis. Now, this picture, you can see there is alternate hyper and normal density in the vertebral plates, vertebral bone. We call it as a Rugger-Jersey spine. And today I will explain this. I think you will never ever forget what do you mean by this Rugger-Jersey spine. So osteosclerosis, that is increased bone density in secondary hyperthyroidism whenever there is a long-standing untreated problem is there, especially in chronic kidney disease. Along with this, there is osteoblastic activity due to parathyroid hormone in addition to osteoclastic activity. So this will combinedly lead to difference in density of normal mineralized bone and newly formed unmineralized bone, that is osteoid, at vertebral end plates. So this is actually the jersey of rugby players, and you can see alternate stripes, and that's why name is Rugger-Jersey spine appearance. And universally, all the countries of rugby team, they are supposed to have these alternative stripes of whatever color they choose, and hence the name is Rugger-Jersey spine. It describes the prominent end plate densities at multiple contiguous vertebral levels to produce alternating sclerotic, lucent, sclerotic appearance, dark, white, dark appearance, sclerotic, lucent, sclerotic appearance. This mimics the horizontal stripes of rugby jersey, and hence the name. So to sum up in nutshell, hyperparathyroidism, 4 things. Manish Agrawal sir, please mute. So 4 important things: subperiosteal bone resorption at medial cortex of middle phalanges of second and third digits of the hand, pepper and salt appearance of the skull, osteoclastoma or brown tumor formation, Rugger-Jersey spine, hyperparathyroidism. For rickets, here etiology is, now second is rickets or osteomalacia. In children, vitamin D deficiency in children is rickets. That too, in adults, we call it as a osteomalacia. So problem is abnormal vitamin D metabolism, incomplete or defective mineralization in normal osteoid tissue. So this picture is self-explanatory, and you all are also knowing how vitamin D is formation takes place in the body. So ultraviolet rays reaching to the skin, cholesterol part in the skin, in vitamin D3, that means vitamin D3 either from diet or in liver, this cholesterol substrate after sun ultraviolet rays coming to the skin, where it will form the 20 means metabolism. Vitamin D3 will get converted to 25 hydroxy vitamin D, and then in the kidney 1 alpha hydroxylase will again it degrade it, means convert it into 125 dihydroxy calcitriol, and effects of this will be increased calcium absorption from the intestines, from kidneys, reabsorption of calcium will be increased, and excretion of phosphate will be there, remodeling and mineralization will improve, and parathyroid hormone level will decrease. So causes of rickets or osteomalacia is basically it will revolve around the vitamin D metabolism. Dietary vitamin D deficiency, inadequate sunlight exposure, malabsorption like in GIT malabsorption states and biliary atresia, liver diseases where hepatitis or cirrhosis, anticonvulsant therapy, and renal insufficiency will lead to abnormal vitamin D metabolism. Secondary to phosphate loss, as in vitamin D resistant rickets, renal tubular acidosis, maybe type 1, type 2, in renal tubular proximal renal tubular acidosis, tumors associated, chemotherapeutic drug induced, it may be there, and metaphyseal chondrodysplasia or hypophosphatemia. So in investigation, important finding you will see is the increased alkaline phosphatase, but there may be normal or reduced calcium or phosphorus. In less than 6 months of life of children, we can come across with symptoms, these tetany or convulsions, stunted growth, and swollen tender joints. Commonest clinical feature we come across. Advanced disease will present with irritability, bony deformities, and like what Gopakumar sir was telling us, always muscular weakness, some sort of weakness in the rickets, unless it is a phosphate related. And in adults, there will be fatigue, malaise, bone pains, abnormal gait, proximal muscle weakness. So radiologically, we have just now seen in this case presentation, at wrist, we will see widening of growth plate, irregular margins of metaphysis with widening and cupping. There will be osteopenia and rarefaction in the long bones. Skeletal deformities we will see in the skull in the form of craniotapes, in the long bones, bowing, knock knees, in spine, maybe some the coronal plane deformity, pelvis will be triradiate pelvis, in ribs, costochondral junctions swollen in the form of rachitic rosary. So this widening of growth plate is earliest and specific radiological change we see in these rickets, and it is mainly due to the cartilaginous cell mass. Metaphyseal fraying is there. Why? Irregular metaphyseal margins, they occur due to fraying and disorganization of spongy bone in the metaphyseal region will give this metaphyseal fraying type of appearance. And we have already seen these radiological pictures, so I think I should not repeat this. So signs of healing rickets, again we have discussed. Radiological signs of healing occurs in 2 to 3 weeks after adequate therapy, and complete recalcification occurs in 2 months. So our monitoring is very important. Resurgence of dense zone of provisional calcification seen as a dense line short of metaphysis. This is already very clearly explained by Gopakumar sir कि कप में दूध आने पर वो कप भर गया ऐसा लगता है. That's what he was telling us. That means resurgence of dense zone of provisional calcification is seen short of metaphysis, which is the first evidence of healing rickets. Increase in cupping will be there. Recalcification of subperiosteal osteoid forming thick opaque envelope along the shaft, and epiphyseal ossification center becomes sharply defined. So this is the PA view of wrist in a mature skeleton, where we see widened distal ends of radius, resolving flaring of metaphysis, and distinct zone of provisional calcification within the physin. You can see here where my cursor is going. And so we call it as a healing of rickets. These are few, again, radiographs. What are the classical features? You will see what is most probable diagnosis, or how will you evaluate and manage such case. these are the likely questions or ASCII questions like what sir was asking me on that day. So you must be ready. Even the X-ray will be there, and you will be asked what is the common serological picture in relation to alkaline phosphatase, calcium, and phosphorus. So basically, when theory is known to you, pathomechanics are known to you, and radiological picture is known to you. Whichever way we ask you in examination in ASCII or OSPE, it should not be that difficult. So this is healing rickets you can see here. Now, third part, this is the last one. This Dilip, please, you are disturbing too much. Request to you. Either you exit yourself or mute yourself, please. So third is scurvy. Vitamin C deficiency is the cause of this third metabolic bone disorder. Nowadays is not that common. Acts as a cofactor. Vitamin C's role is important. It acts as a cofactor in collagen formation. And that is very essential element for manufacturing of cartilaginous matrix. So its deficiency will do what? Just please bear with me. I will remove this participant Dilip. Hope no faculty is joined with this name Dilip. I am removing him. So friends, sorry. Scurvy is because of vitamin C deficiency, acts as a cofactor in collagen formation. It's essential element in manufacturing the cartilage matrix. So here deficiency will cause reduced osteoblastic activity and cellular content in the bone. Mineralization is normal, but this osteoblastic activity is reduced. Number of cells doing osteoblastic activities reduced. So formation of intercellular cement substances in connective tissues, bones, and dentin is defective, resulting in weakened capillaries with subsequent hemorrhage and defects in bone and related structures. Hemorrhaging is a hallmark feature of scurvy and can occur in any bone. Hair follicles are one of the common sites of cutaneous bleeding. So radiological picture, what we will see, subperiosteal bleeding, this tumor-filled or scorbutic zone, and Wimberger sign. This Wimberger sign, Pelkan spur, white line of Frankel. These are the few words you must know while describing the scurvy radiological picture. This tumor-filled or scorbutic zone, what is it? This is a radiolucent zone in the metaphysis below the Frankel line. It occurs due to decreased formation of bone matrix in zone of primary and secondary spongiosa. This is weakened bone and shows tendency to fracture. So these radiological pictures, now here we can see suppressed osteoblastic activity and normal osteoclastic activity. This is the picture of scurvy in nutshell. Generalized decreased in bone density, thinning of cortex, and loss of trabecular definition. Is trabeculae, they are not properly defined. So dense zone of provisional calcification, we call it as a white line of Frankel at growing metaphysis. So although cartilage proliferation is decreased, mineralization is normal and unimpaired. Due to normal mineralization, zone of provisional calcification becomes wide and dense. Enhancement of dense metaphyseal zone of calcified cartilage occurs owing to delayed conversion into bone. So this radiolucent physis with some sclerotic border, we call it as a Wimberger's sign. So ring epiphysis or Wimberger's sign is again the classical picture. Same thing I am repeating because these are rarely seen X-rays in your exam also. Scurvy, I have not seen at least in my complete tenure of MS and thereafter also. So though it is a theoretical part, but your viva will go from rickets to scurvy or towards the hyperparathyroidism because of your unnecessary and unintentional few words. And that's why I'm taking it deliberately this. So this picture, whenever you will see there is a flaring of metaphysis, and you will confuse yourself with rickets. But you see this epiphysis. The peripheral margin of epiphysis appears to be dense, whereas central portion is radiolucent. And again, see here, this 4 or 6 area. Irregularity of metaphyseal margins frequently occur secondary to infections of the epiphysio-metaphyseal junction. Pelkan spur, the bony protuberance or periosteal elevation, which occurs at the metaphyseal margins and lead to spur formation at right angles away to the shaft. Shaft ke right angle mein it will form. So this is called as Pelkan spur. And Pelkan spur, Wimberger sign or ring epiphysis and subperiosteal elevation, means this periosteal elevation, subperiosteal hemorrhage. These 3 important things you should think of. Then few things like acromegalia and fluorosis will be there, but will be actually true theoretical. So with this, I stop sharing my screen here. Now I request Gopal Kumar sir to have his comments. Sir, please.
Well, today it was a very useful day and your talk was extremely good. You covered rickets, you covered fluorosis, you have not covered, scurvy you have covered, hyperparathyroidism you have covered well. So the only other thing that can be added is osteomalacia, which shows the looser zones.
Looser zones, yes sir. Next time I will, with some case, I will do that, sir.
And fluorosis, you should remember the interosseous membrane calcification and the obturator foramen calcifications, generalized sclerosis. Because some part of Andhra Pradesh have got fluorosis even now, I think.
Right, sir.
Nalgonda, sir.
Okay, Nalgonda, yeah.
Nalgonda, very common.
Okay.
Right, sir.
And sacrospinous tuberous and sacrospinous calcification is also very common.
Yeah. I think you can include that also. I think.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I will increase those 2-3 things, sir.
Yeah. Because it can also be asked for the OSCE.
Okay, sir. Fluorosis, I will add on next time, sir.
Okay.
Sir, Samantha, sir, comments from faculties now regarding today's both the case discussions.
I think Gopal, the case presentation was both of them presented good, but it has to be in proper way. They told most of the points, but I think with the first case, what Suman was presenting, he has to be very methodical and he forgot some important points to mention during the presentation of the case. So that has to be extremely methodical, unless and otherwise you present it regularly, it is going to happen. It happened to us. It happens to everybody. So nothing to fear about the practical exam. I think both of you did well. And some part of the theory is a bit lacking because we all read and forget the metabolic diseases. But for your exam purpose, you need all those. I think Gopal, you took an excellent class on this metabolic disease. I think this is the baseline you have to remember for your exam purpose. Only thing I will also request the juniors that we read about the fluorosis part, because the fluorosis is a very, very favorite topic of some of the examiners. So you don't have to forget the basic 5, 6 points, 10 points about the fluorosis. So I think Gopal is going to take care of the in the next class if he is permitted for 10, 15 minutes. I think overall today's class was extremely good. I'm really happy about whatever happened today. Thank you, Gopal. Thank you, Gopal Kumar sir, for your inputs, Sivananda sir and Uday Kumar sir, and all the rest of the faculties.
Thank you, sir. Ashok Sham sir. Ashok Sham sir, please unmute yourself, sir. Any faculty wants to, meantime, Uday Kumar sir.
I think the first case, basically, I feel it is a primary septic arthritis more than the osteomerites or the distal and the humerus. I see it is if the joint got involved primarily. The stiffness is maybe that is because of the immobile secondary to infection, also because of immobilization, and the especially shoulder. I think shoulder is the stiffness is because of immobilization, as already Gopakumar has clarified that. So that's one thing. Basically, what I feel, there is nothing, not much of a evidence of chronic osteomyelitis in the distal humerus. And usually in the chronic osteomyelitis, the tenderness and pain is less. If it were to be only bony part, the tenderness will not be a prominent hallmark of chronic osteomyelitis. That's what I feel. The second case, of course, the Gopakumar sir has given a very clear view of the metabolic bone disease. As Samantha sir said, we don't read this theory much. I think today Sivanand and myself decided to read first April, then other things. Yes. And then regarding Gopal Shinde, as usual, excellent correction. And congratulations once again, Gopalji. You have given a very good account. All the pages, please note down, take a notes of all these metabolic bone diseases. They're very useful for you, both theory and practicals and viva. Sometimes quiz also. They're very useful for your quiz also. Most of the things will be kept in the quiz. Something like a salt and pepper skull. That sort of X-rays are very, quiz-oriented X-rays. They're all. Overall, it's a good discussion, both clinical and that radiological part of the cooperation.
Thank you, sir. Sivananda, sir, I think you reached home now. Please, Sivananda, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, your comment, sir.
It's a very good discussion. To students also presented well. Truly speaking, it is a very good cases
examination, and there are truly real exam cases. And this has been discussed very well in today. And your class is also enriched with all the findings. So what are the things to be known, and biochemical analysis and clinical presentation, and how to differentiate between the renal rickets and nutrition rickets. Everything was discussed very well. So sir has given a beautiful guidelines to this.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Ashok Sham, sir, if you are there, please unmute yourself. Meantime, friends, teachers are there to know, examiner wants to know what you know. Examiner is not interested in knowing what you don't know. Otherwise, no one will pass the exam. If examiner wants to know what you don't know. That with that note, one point from my sides or comment from my sides, in exam, if you have not done something, unless examiner points out to you, keep quiet. Varus deformity, you are telling 7 degrees. And you are yourself committing by presenting Genuvarum case that you have not checked that. So that is come after 6 months or come after 1 month action by yourself. Means अपने आप वो प्रॉब्लम गड्ढा खोदने वाला बात होता है. So अगर आपने दूसरा बात, first case, your presentation was as if you are very tubular with tubular vision. ये osteomyelitis ही है, involucrum तक आप लेके गए. Was there any sign of involucrum or sequestrum radiologically, clinically? So when even if you know osteomyelitis type picture is there, in that case, wait and think of differentials first. And while presenting, let the examiner take you to your diagnosis, what is in your mind, and you try to keep telling all differential parts also. So you will not be caught in the examination. I think this is what I want to say, but I will of course request Gopakumar sir, what I have told now regarding differential part, even if you are knowing the picture and what you have to take care. Gopakumar sir, what you will advise sir कि बच्चे को मालूम है, student knows the diagnosis, but in which smart way he should present it in the exam?
See, the problem is if they know the diagnosis, they will go back in the reverse direction. Okay. That is a big problem. If they don't know the diagnosis, they will come from history, clinical examination, inspection, palpation, movements, special tests like that. And they will tell all the findings, and even if the diagnosis is wrong, they will easily get through. So if you go in the reverse direction, they will cook up some findings to suit the diagnosis and they will land in trouble. That's the problem. So if you have got the tip, you should be very, very intelligent enough to use that tip in the correct manner. Otherwise, you will land in trouble.
Thank you, sir. I think what Gopakumar sir told us is actually the important message to all exam going friends. Gopakumar sir, with your permission, shall we call off the day?
Yes.
I will request Ashok Sham sir if he is around. Or sir, your concluding remark, Gopakumar sir, and we will end our today's session.
I think we'll end.
Gopal,
Right.
Gopakumar sir, good evening to everybody. Sorry, Saturday
Sir.
का याद नहीं रहता. Forgot the.
Sir, Kanuja sir, sorry, I missed.
नहीं हमें अभी ज्वाइन किया, मैं भूल गया. सैटरडे का याद ही नहीं रहता.
सर बोलिए सर, आपने कहाँ से ज्वाइन किया सर? केस प्रेजेंटेशन के टाइम पे थे आप?
वो नहीं, अभी जब आप स्टूडेंट को सलाह दे रहे थे तभी आए.
Okay sir, then I will stop this recording first, and Ashok Sham sir is live telecasting. So I think I will